Hi, good afternoon. Hi, cheekbones. How are you?
I am dandy. Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
I know we were trying to
yay!
figure. Yay! I'm going to connect to the chat so I can make sure I can see everybody here. Hopefully, I can see everyone. There we are. Yay! Hey, Chris, come on in. Chris said in today's video he showed the golf clubs in his shed. Yes, he did. And said these are the golf clubs that were given to me. Yes, yes. Sorry, cheekbones. There was a if you hadn't followed Sarasota Tim supposedly was gifted a pair of golf clubs or a set of golf clubs, I should say. And in reality, what I had found out from Johnny Vegas is that no, the only things that he was gifted, and I'm gonna do this video, is one single golf club, a rangefinder, and a divot repairer. That was it. Those were it.
Oh,
Tim said they were gifted, and he went off with these clubs. So,
well, that's special.
oh, he is very special. He's so very special. Now, did you get a chance, cheekbones, to take a look at the video? Hey, Stacey, come on in. The video that we had recommended for Tim today. He's drinking salt at the moment.
I, I actually did not, and I apologize. You
That's
know
okay.
what I've had going on with my daughter, and then also we're moving her to another state. She got a job in 2 days,
Oh,
so
wow.
we've had to buy a new car, buy furniture, get an apartment, rent a truck. It's been hecticana. So,
Oh, my
but
goodness. Yeah,
but
that's
I'm
a
sure
lot.
it. Yeah, I'm sure it won't be
And then the 4th of
anything.
July, of course, is next weekend. I could not
Yes.
believe that snuck up on me like that. I don't know where that came from. Not that I really do much of anything. I was already off that Friday, so that was nice.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
great.
yeah, it's great. So some people in the chat here may not be familiar. With the one stream, it's interesting because I can't really see how many people we have. But make sure everybody that when you do come in to hit the likes because that lets people know that we are here. I'm hoping we can have a really good, just kind of open, honest conversation. I know people get very passionate around the topics of lifestyle, especially when it comes to diets. Do you want to tell everybody, in case they are not familiar with you, because obviously this is a different group of audience. It's a different audience than our Chantel audience, which is nice.
Yes.
We actually have a lot more males that will be watching today, so you're going to be able to get a little bit more opportunity to speak to some of the guys out there because I know you've been a big proponent of ensuring that your husband follows a good heart healthy diet and one that manages is it his blood sugars that he's trying to manage or just his
His
health
blood
in
pressure.
general? His blood
Yeah.
pressure. Okay, so it was a heart healthy diet. Okay, I was correct. Okay, so tell everybody because I'm gonna sort of monitor the chat and let you kind of do a lot of the reacting today, if that's okay.
Oh, fantastic. Let me just say, I cannot see any chat on my end. So if
Okay.
anybody asks a question, I can't see what
Okay. Can
anybody's
you see when I bring it up, or I'll just make sure to read the question? How about that?
Okay, great. That's
And what I
fantastic.
think we will do too is when we reach a part of the video that you feel that you want to interject with a comment, then I'll let you do that as well. So you just tell me to stop.
Fantastic. Got it.
Okay.
Well, I am a registered dietitian. Clinical has been my main focus based. I have done some food service, but is mainly clinical. I've worked in dialysis. I've worked in cardiac units, skilled long-term care, oncology, and then just general clinician type stuff, diet education, the whole ball of wax. But yeah.
And I think that's what people probably don't really understand about a lot of the work of registered dietitians. A lot of it focuses around hospital patients. Am I correct? It's not really something that you find as easily in sort of, it would be nice, but it can be difficult to actually link up with, at least here in the United States, registered dietitians outside of a hospital setting. It can be challenging.
Correct. And for us to be able to be paid on a private level, we have to set up and go through all these hoops and kind of things. And to me, it's just kind of like, it's not really worth it. But yeah, hospitals would be your main place of employment. And then like your nursing home skilled units would be probably a close second.
Right. And obviously, exactly. And I think that obviously with what people don't understand, that often the work of the potentially registered dietitians are managing all these different gastric feeding devices and ordering and managing enteral feeds and pump feeds and all of the different
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where I know that we work with registered dietitian, which is very different. So do you want to explain briefly what the difference is between, say, a registered dietitian and a nutritionist?
Well, and I think this really varies state to state too, but generally, you can graduate from a university with a degree in nutritional science, and I guess you can call yourself a nutritionist. But as a registered dietitian, I had to be accepted into a Katie approved internship, and those are very hard to get into.
Now, what's Katie an acronym for?
Well, it's the Dietetic Association governing body, shall we say?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
It has to. I can't go to. You can't. Your internship has to be approved by and they've changed the name. I think it's the Academy of Nutrition now. Used to be the American Dietetic Association, but ADA, and everybody's ADA, so they got rid of that. Anyway, but then you have to do an internship. Basically, I had to work as I had to pay a large amount of money to work for free as a dietitian for a year. And then I got to sit for my boards and then pass the boards, and you become a dietitian.
So how many clinical hours were you required to complete?
I think mine was 1,200.
Wow.
And it's you have to do a rotation in dialysis, in nursing home. I mean, you have to do all these food service, all these different rotations for a number of hours.
Right.
And yeah, it's quite, but you're working for free, but it's not for free. I had to pay a lot of money to work for free.
Right. So you're paying for the actual privilege of being part of this actual
yeah. But you got to do it. So
yes,
so that gives the registered dietitian has that vast skill of working in a clinical setting and working with patients, and just the knowledge of the different areas of practice, where I can tell you, and I'm not trying to diss anybody that graduates with a nutrition degree, but you really don't know nothing. And I'm speaking from experience, until you get into that clinical setting, and I think nursing's probably the same too. What you learn in school is not how it rolls on the floor.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is nothing, because you are so limited into how you can actually interact with the patients and not be causing harm to them.
Yes.
So there's little that we are often allowed to really do until our final preceptorships, It's a little different when you advance in your practice. But yeah, we can be limited. But we do get some nutrition studies, but obviously we often work alongside registered dietitians. But obviously myself, having worked in a heart hospital and in cardiac, and having worked in sort of like the diabetes liaison for my unit, I probably had more interest in the average nurse often into to health and nutrition and so forth. But I think today it's going to be interesting because we're going to look at Tim real quick. So let's just add to the stream real fast before we add Tim. My fair use statement, because Tim loves to strike my channel. I did a live stream last Friday, and I guess he was not happy that I was revealing the fact that it seemed like he had a very large EIDL loan with not actually having a business at the time. $58,400. And so, yes, and we have all the evidence that he took this money. So, and we're just trying to figure out, what business did you actually have at that time, Tim? Because you said you closed the oil coupon business down, so he got unhappy. But I managed to sneak it back out again and then privatize it. So if you are a member of The Good Life, you will be able to see that actual information, because I released it live out to the public again, and I hit it again because he kept trying to remove it. So we are going to go over to a video today. It's a short one, so hopefully it won't take too long. But like I said, just let me know when to stop. Sarasota Tim is trying to, just to give you a little bit heads up here, is trying to lose 10 pounds. And he feels, and he has like this, I guess, stubborn abdominal visceral fat, that often men who are 66, 67 years old may find themselves with, so he's trying. Now, most of it, I think, and can that type of fat, I would say that's very diet driven. Would you agree?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So he believes that by following this very restrictive diet, because it is a restrictive diet, would you not say? What do you know about the carnivore diet? And I'm going to bring up this video.
Well, I brushed up on it because, as you know, I'm a mammal now and not really practicing, but that it's very, to me, similar to the keto diet, but more restrictive than the keto diet, and I'll just do the disclaimer now. This is just my opinion. I don't have labs. I don't, I've not done a subjective type of interview with him. I'm just my opinions only.
Okay. Absolutely.
But I am not a proponent of the carnivore diet, nor the keto diet. So, but that's just my personal opinions.
Right. And there is a purpose when we do use a diet which would put somebody into ketosis, with particularly neurological pediatric patients with seizure control.
Absolutely.
And so it did then, I guess, one of the findings from having found that it doesn't, or it sort of helps lower a seizure threshold, is that it also led to a lower blood glucose. So I'm guessing that people had started to use it for management of type 2 diabetes. Is that what I'm understanding? One of the popular.
I think a lot of.
I don't really follow these diets much myself, which why I'm talking.
I think a lot of my experience with the diabetic diet education and my diabetic patients is, they want something that's not so restrictive, or that they can eat things that they know they shouldn't. Okay. And yes, it does eliminate a lot of the carbohydrates, keto, and definitely carnivore. But, when you're diabetic, you also have that secondary risk of heart disease, a much higher risk of heart disease. So you're eating foods that are terrible for your heart disease. It might lower your blood glucose, but I'm a big proponent of, as we've talked about before, you get on your diabetic diet, your set number of carbs per meal, same time, and manage it that way. And you can have anything. It may not be a lot of it, but you can have anything. And so you're not restricted. You just have to fit it into your carbohydrate count. But I think everybody's looking for that magic bullet, and it just doesn't exist.
Right. And I think what the actual sort of, my findings over the lifetime is that the magic is really in moderation on most things.
Yes, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
also but also not really having a lot of fast foods, not having a lot of food high and saturated, especially mono and polysaturated. I believe is the one that's worse, correct, than the monosaturated.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this is getting about Johnny Vegas and the lawsuit on the golf clubs. We're definitely going to do a video on it, guys. Don't you worry. Oh gosh, he's I'm always looking forward to it. I did have one of my strikes fell off though, so I'm only down to one at the moment from Tim.
Lord have mercy.
He wants rid of me so bad. I am his nightmare. I am his nightmare. Having probably a registered dietitian speaking on this video is probably another one of his nightmares. I did actually, just to preface, putting Tim's picture on my fridge is enough of a parent of eating, says Watching World. Yeah. Because he has a lot of myths around why he does the carnivore diet. And I think it's interesting. Again, these restrictive diets that are magic panacea to magic weight loss, but he's plateaued. I mean, that's the thing. He's not really gone under the 200-pound goal that he has set himself. So
there's a stopper.
But you'll hear what he obviously thinks is the average American diet. He may not be far off, actually. So make sure, if you are interested in seeing some of the members only content, though, you can join the Life and Vibe community. That's where I hid the information about Tim's EIDL loan, where I do have the information around the UCC filing in Florida and all the paper trail behind the loan. That's what I do in my spare time. I'm not a bully. I just want to know how he got $58,400.
I would love to know myself. I would be very curious.
Especially after he claimed unemployment.
Yeah.
What business? I mean, anyway. All right. So we're going to make us small cheekbones. You're going to have, I know you've watched a little bit of Tim, correct?
Yes. I've dabbled in the Tim pool.
So Tim has entered into the carnivore lifestyle. I think he's at 20 some days. He's in and out of these diets. This is interesting. Something I've noticed, and even though I've had to go towards nurse educator just to try to get my master's finished, because I don't have time for 580 hours of MP clinical rotation, which is a fraction of what you did. But I guess mine is because I already did some with nursing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's because I already have clinical hours behind me in work. Thousands of those. But anyway, Tim is obviously just, a full-blown expert. He's, Mr. Dr. Google, he's Mr. Netflix MD, all of these things. Yes, thank you for the stethoscopes. Absolutely. And we have stethoscopes. We need to get your son to send me back the sad kidney so I missed that one. And I've been trying to find another kidney, but we've got the sad pancreas, which I'm sure Tim's doing. Now, another little bit of history from Tim is that supposedly he had a coronary artery calcium score of, I want to say, and somebody that was friendly with Tim, actually the person whose golf clubs he has, said to me that this was truthful, that his coronary artery calcium score was like 1578, which, if you know, that's really high. Like,
okay.
Usually like over 400 high.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's in the 1500s. Now, he did say that his cholesterol, which he's only ever mentioned, like I think the total was in the 200s, which didn't make sense to have a coronary artery calcium score that high and then a
Yeah,
cholesterol that low.
yeah.
But somebody told me that he wasn't truthful and that they had told him this is like a contact that Tim had and who is no longer friends with Tim. I'm all in this, girl. I have my own world over here, because I was not going to be the queen of the girl world, that's for sure. That's Chantel's job. But anyway, they said it was more like in the 300s, which made a little bit more sense with the
Yeah.
the calcium score. Now, Tim has admitted in the past to a history of imbibing alcohol, so that's kind of but that he does not now. And but there has been times recently where he looks like he may have gone and partied a little bit because we saw him coming out of a bar in Key West. So we don't know.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Is he down in the Keys or was he just visiting?
Yeah, he was down visiting in the Keys because he lives in Florida. And somebody saw a live cam of him coming out of a bar. I shouldn't say stumbling.
Okay, because I'm going to the Keys in a few months, and I thought, Lord have mercy, I don't need to run into him down there. So.
Oh no, he doesn't live there. He was just vacationing.
Okay.
But we did see him coming out on a live cam.
Well, Key West has more
He doesn't
bars that you
understand.
can't walk a foot and there not be a bar in Key West. So,
Well, that's just, I have to laugh because this is how YouTube it gets. So somebody actually YouTubed a video of him on the live cam coming out of a Key West bar.
Oh, Lord.
You cannot do anything in this world without it getting sent onto YouTube. Especially if you're Tim. So he supposedly has sworn off all of his medications as well.
Do you know what meds he was taking?
He supposedly was taking some type of blood pressure medication and aspirin and a statin, which he calls Stalins. So he came off of all of those medications because he doesn't need it because he's on the carnivore diet.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of his health history.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I mean, as a dietitian, him getting off the statin wouldn't be as alarming to me as the blood pressure medication. That's what that would be my first concern, is getting off of the blood pressure. If he was on it and got off of it, that would be my first concern.
Right. And he does show sometimes him taking his blood pressure. But I saw it. I don't think he even had the cuff on correct. I think he had the cuff on upside down.
Oh, Lord.
So how could you have had a correct reading? He didn't do anything that you're supposed to do. And like he's drinking coffee. And oh, he loves coffee. So he rarely drinks water.
Does he drink the full leaded coffee or decaffeinated?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
With 5 creams in it.
Oh, okay.
Full cream.
Ooh, all right. All righty then.
Now we're having somebody make sure you hit the likes on the way in. Are you ready for I don't even know how many people are watching this with this one stream. It's very different. I have no idea. But if you are coming in, make sure to hit the like so people know that Cheekbones and I are here. And she's a registered dietitian, is just about to hear Tim's carnivore rant. #carnivore. #social security. #retirement. #health. Whatever. Those 4 things have in common.
Okay.
And he likes a hashtag. So yes. And let's see. Non-compensmentum says his BP measurements are too perfect to be right. He reads what a good BP is, adds a point here or there. Yeah, he's always 123 over 72.
Okay.
Which actually would be pre-hypertensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. All right. Are you ready for this? I put him at 1.25. You just tell me when to stop.
Okay.
And then I'm going to let you make a comment.
I'm strapped in. Let's go.
Because I'm not going to say any more past this, except if you want me to.
Okay.
People want to hear from you, not me on this topic. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Gosh, girl, seatbelt on.
What are you screaming for? Because I've got Animal on again. I paid $4.99. I'm watching again this morning. Have you ever read a book twice? You ever watched a movie twice and discovered things you didn't hear the first time? Saw scenes you didn't see the last time and the first time you watched it? Absolutely. Am I a carnivore man? Am I into it? Hell yeah. I'm watching this. I had so many people asking questions like, what about gout? What about cholesterol? Watch the damn movie because that'll answer all your questions. But I'm watching it again so that I can attempt to answer questions in the future as for something that I'm promoting. And I want to be educated, just like these other content creators that are doctors or just regular people.
Okay.
I'm going to let you go there, and I'm going to turn off my ice maker that's behind me.
Okay. I'm really not trying to diss anybody's intelligence, but people do not need to be taking health or diet advice from somebody that's done a YouTube short or a YouTube unless if they've got some clinical qualifications. But even that, I know registered dietitians that sell supplements. To me, that's unethical, or push this or that. Hey, Catherine. But I definitely don't be taking it from somebody who's watching it and trying to interpret it and spew it back out with absolutely no education or training. That's ridiculous. Do not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I also have a cis degree. We got Raw Food Writer who thinks we need to get a life. Okay, well, we do have a life. Thank you for that. And somebody who's raw food, and I've been on a plant-based diet for many years, that's very restrictive. And I have had many family members who have struggled. Oh, gosh. Catherine, can you just take Raw Food Writer out of the comment section for me? Can you just get rid of him, Catherine? I don't think I can do it from here, but can you just take him away? Because he's a very toxic human being.
Probably needs to eat some meat. Anyway.
What's that?
I said he probably needs to eat some meat.
He's probably, I don't know what he's probably needing to get more than just a dietary change, I'm thinking at this point. And that's coming from somebody who's just studied a lot of psychiatry. And if I just could sell this place, which I'm planning to do next year, I will actually have the finances to thank you, Catherine, to do that. And that's all I need to do. But I need to anyway, let's not talk about that. So I've had a lot of family members, and Tim is somebody who did leave school at 16. And I think there's a lot of danger in trying to demonize people who do actually acquire an education. And I was thinking about this today, and I'm just going to say this real fast. If you want to study the effects of, trying to not have scientific evidence, or people who have expertise, or limiting, academia, or people with knowledge, and trying to say that, no, it's my experience, that's, and obviously experience matters. When you're on your individual case with your provider, but your experience does not make you the expert to everybody's situation. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And I think that's where people are misunderstanding. Now, do you want to touch on what he wanted to say about his gout and so forth in regards to excessive protein? Obviously the cholesterol, we can get into that part, but
Well, you know, and I've only had a couple of patients with issues with gout. But my understanding is that you're at higher risk for that with the organ meats than meat itself. And there's some other food, choices that can aggravate the situation. But I've had so little of it in my practice or in my experience, years as a dietitian. But that's common. I think a lot of people think carnivore gout, but if I dig in my memory banks, I don't think it's so much. Gout is not one of the first things that's going to become an issue with that type of a diet.
Right. I think I've seen gout more with probably cardiac patients or kidney patients. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can speak with the kidneys because,
Right. I want to say kidney patients, chronic kidney, seem to have gout often.
I had
a
couple of patients with it. But when you get into dialysis, usually it's the phosphorus and, that kind of stuff that's usually causes the main problems. That's why they have to take all those binders. But I did see it in my dialysis patients. But it just as an overall blanket, I never really saw it very much in my, years as a dietitian.
Now, one of the things, and this is what Debbie points out, is that on a number of his carnivore videos, Tim likes to suggest that his diet or his lifestyle. Sorry, guys, it's a lifestyle. Sorry, Tim, it's a lifestyle. Correct me. That it will cure medical conditions like obviously probably type 2 diabetes, because you can't cure type 1 because you literally don't have insulin. So that's not a curable, reversible condition. Gout and Crohn's disease.
Well, even with the type 2, and I think we may have touched on this the first time we collabed, but with the type 2 diabetes, there's not so much a cure as it's in remission. You can control it, but it's like, will always, be there kind of situation. But now I had one of my professors at Ole Miss that had Crohn's. And he had a heavy meat diet, but that's what he had to. But I mean, there's no cure for that. I think there's some surgical interventions, but you're not curing things.
Right, because Crohn's is an autoimmune disease, correct?
Yes, correct.
So how are you curing an autoimmune disease that you yourself have?
Yeah.
You can manage it, but you're not going to cure it.
No, I mean, eating with this professor I had, like he could not eat vegetable like a salad. He said, I just cannot eat it. And so he was in a heavier meat-based diet because he could tolerate it better, much better. So that's just being able to tolerate something. It's not going to cure it. It's
right. Yes, and I think that's what people need to understand, because Tim is hoping that also by being on this diet, and maybe he talks about it, and we'll get into him talking again, is that he will be off his eye drops for the glaucoma.
And I was reading a really good article from the National Institutes of Health on all that. I didn't get to, how you have to read for days before you finally get to the summary of their articles. But I was reading about that, the carnivore diet and the glaucoma.
Somebody's trying to gain weight and wants to know if the carnivore would be right for them. I would say probably the opposite. Potentially.
Yeah, aren't you lucky? But I'm a big proponent of calories in, calories out. But if you need to gain weight, to do it in a healthy don't go get 5 boxes of King Dongs and Ho-Hos and eat Big Macs and, to gain weight. That's not a healthy way to do it. It's just
Right.
you need to eat more calories a day than your body
Right.
burns. But you can do that in a healthy way.
Right. So
And a lot of times, like the protein shakes, and I'm just saying this, I don't know if there's any kidney issues, any high blood, I don't know any of that, but just on the level of gaining weight, the protein shakes, I give a lot of my patients, it's the poor man's Ensure, because Ensure is so expensive, how to make it yourself at home, and it's a lot cheaper.
How do you do that? How do you do that real quick for anybody who is interested? Maybe has an adult failure to thrive going on.
And if you have an elderly parent or something, it's just whole milk. Then you add powdered milk, the evaporated dry milk, and then Carnation instant breakfast.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, that sounds rich. Yeah,
yeah.
That sounds probably you can make a lot of that, and it would last a while.
You have an elderly parent or whatever, put you a couple of scoops of ice cream in it, and because they love ice cream. So
right. And Irish Eyes is saying I have high cholesterol, and my doctor told me to stay away from the carnivore diet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. All right, let's keep going back with Tim.
They're on carnivore. 22 days today. I'm starting my 4th week, and I'm not even hungry this morning. I'm just going to make some coffee right now, and my channel is not going to be dedicated to carnivore like so many other creators do. Only make one thing, whether it be building fences or carnivore. This is still an eclectic channel. All right, now let's make some coffee. I drank one that was left over from yesterday. I washed some dishes already. I changed the magazine of my gun. I took a shower, washed the sleep off.
What?
Just random like that.
That's so random. That's odd. Why?
He always wants to remind his haters, like me, that he's fully loaded. I guess I don't know. He just
got it. He's packing.
Know.
We got it.
I guess it goes along with the lifestyle.
Yeah. And good for you. Good. Okay.
Yeah. I know. This is what we get to do. No, you can't.
In my bed. I went out to my car. I looked around. I checked out all the neighborhood here. It's still dark out there. I'm crushing. I put animal back on.
Somebody asked if he took a dump. Did he take a dump? But this is interesting. Thank you for reminding me. Tim has sort of commented in previous videos, and I hate to be. Hopefully, this isn't quite dinner time. We're going to get the Bristol chart out, okay, just to be prepared, cheekbones. But he doesn't seem to have good bowel movements. They're kind of, I hate to be graphic, but he described them as like rabbit-style poopies.
Well, it's dehydrated. No fiber.
Thank you. Can we repeat that, please?
Dehydration and no fiber.
Right. And one thing that Tim does not do is drink water. We never see him drink water. For today, adding that salt packet was the first time that I've seen him drink water, and he had an additive to it. He drinks coffee, and so far he's been on this supposedly strict carnivore diet for 22 days. And he talks about his... So do you think that... Because meat... does take longer to digest, correct? Like red meat. Yeah. So how long would, say, red meat in a 66-year-old individual like Tim, just say a normal individual, do you know how long that would take for him to digest that meat? I mean, without...
Well, motility, I mean, it has a lot of factors. I mean, your GI health, fiber intake, how much are you moving? Are you exercising? Or are you just sitting? How much water are you drinking? So
nothing that we see him drinking. We only ever see him drinking coffee with cream.
Which coffee is a diuretic. So he's just dehydrating himself further.
Gosh. Thank you. I know we made a Catherine actually. We challenged Catherine to put a comment on his video for this one. Catherine may remember this. And she suggested that he drink some prune juice. What do you think? And then he removed the comment. And I'm going to read what Flat Pat said.
Red meat no more than 2 times a week. I get asked a lot. A lot of people ask about the, red meat kind of
right.
thing.
So yes, I'll read that question just one more time. So thank you so much for that, super Flat Pat. That was really generous. Yeah, Flat Pat says he just got back from the doctor, and she said red meat no more than 2 times a week. I'm 56-year-old male, by the way.
Yeah.
What do you think to that?
I don't recommend any. Like, I rotate it out. We'll have a vegan night or vegetarian, and then we'll have chicken one night, and then we'll have fish one night, and then we'll have red meat. But your cuts of meat are also very important, and your sirloin, anything that has round in it, top round, eye of the round, a fillet. They're just naturally lower in saturated fat. So, and the ground beef, I use the 96% lean ground beef. So, that's, we eat red meat, but I choose the healthier cuts. And it's the same cuts with a pig and a cow, the sirloin, the tenderloin, that type of thing. It's just lower in saturated fat and a better choice.
Right, because Tim likes a filet mignon.
Well, and I do too. But that's a good choice. But that's cream juice and vodka. Cream juice and potato juice. Woo! But it's just I don't recommend eating the same kind of meat all the time, be it chicken or whatever, just rotate it around. But I've had doctors that have told patients you can never eat red meat again in your life. and I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know. And so I'd say
they must have had really bad cardiac disease, because there is what's known as the Ornish diet, which is a plant-based.
The Ornish, yeah. But this patient did not. I didn't understand why he told him that. So, I just said, well, look, if you're going to do it, this is what I would do, 1 time a week, and making sure it's this, your leaner cuts of meat. But to me, there was no reason why. I think the doctor just didn't like, red meat. Oh, right. Puts butter on his steak.
Yes, he does. And an extra pinch of Redmond salt just for good measure.
And he adds salt.
Yes, he has been known to add salt.
Okay. That's not good. I mean, the carnivore diet is high in sodium anyway. So let's just add, and I don't know, it may be unsalted butter he's using. I doubt that, but then adding salt to it on top. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then remember, he's fully swallowed a lifestyle.
John Baker right there.
There we are.
Got 250 pounds, but he's a mean, lean fighting machine. So I'm going to sit here and watch it again this morning. It's 6:12. I'm going to make some coffee. I'm going to get hopped up.
This is how Tim get hopped up. He loves to get hopped up on coffee. Just want to point out, Tim, this is what his educational basis is for him to, be promoting this diet on his channel. Is that he's watched some YouTube videos. He's watched a Netflix show, and now he is able to disseminate information.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to go down that journey of that lifestyle. First of all, I'm not saying you can't say it, but it is not a diet. Carnivore is not a diet. You don't do this for a while and lose 10 pounds and go back to eating ho-hos and ding-dongs. This is a lifestyle. Health is wealth. We've been talking about that for a long time on the channel. And they even mentioned in here, that these people that are getting sick from eating the poison that they're selling in the grocery stores, that they're promoting, and big pharmaceutical with their pills that they want to give you that cause you to think about killing yourself. What a whacked up thing. And you think that after eons of having heart disease still is the #1 killer with AI and all the technology they got and their super brains and these corporations and big pharma, that they haven't cured that yet, then there's something suspect there. It is the food. But steak, meat, chicken, food, seafood are the most nutrient dense food products that you can eat on the planet. And so these doctors are all saying on here,
Is that true?
Well, what probably protein, yes. You just, I'm just a believer. You have to have all food groups.
Right.
And I know you're vegan and
well, I used to be more plant-based. I do eat now because I got so sick last year, as you remember.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of weight from all those antibiotics that I started eating a little bit of seafood again. And occasionally a little bit of like feta cheese or a little piece of mozzarella or something. I don't really drink milk or anything like that though.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, but not crazy. So I'm kind of probably, have a lot of obviously plant-based days where I just don't eat any meat at all or seafood or have anything like that, or dairy. But I still don't eat meat. I've never really ate land meat.
Well, I can kind of, and 50% agree with him with the medication thing. And we've talked about this.
Right.
Because a lot of physicians hand you a script, be it a statin, high blood pressure medication, whatever, and they never address the root of it, which 99.9% of the time, it's what you're eating.
Right.
So, and then you don't change your eating habits and you take your medication. Well, that's putting a Band-Aid over an open wound,
right,
over an amputation. And so then they go back, your blood pressure is still high. And so they up the medication.
Right. Well, I think what gets lost in the sauce is that you are to recommend a lifestyle change along with the medications. In order to not hopefully either to come off the medications potentially or to stay kind of where you're at. But I think what tends to happen is people, and I think this is probably also what medical professionals know, is people don't implement the lifestyle changes.
Well, I know and I swore I was never going to be this type of dietitian, and I'm not this type of dietitian, is in a hospital setting when they come out from like a bypass or something, and you have this handout, eat lean meat, eat your fruits and vegetables. I mean, they don't want to hear that. I mean, they're already terrified. And to sit down and explain, let's look at these cuts of meat. Let's look at this, and you need to get some exercise. And
well, they're supposed to go to cardiac rehab after they get out of their big surgeries. They're supposed to do 30 sessions of cardiac rehab, which also supposedly is supposed to include sessions with a registered dietitian. Now, if you get to a big enough hospital system that actually has a registered dietitian that can come in and do the training, then you actually do get that. So that the problem is that only 20% of patients actually go to their cardiac rehab.
Yeah. I get the hospitals, and I worked in bigger hospitals for this area, and then I was director here at our little local hospital. But we implemented a they did not do open hearts at this hospital. It's very small, but we did a cardiac rehab with them, and we did cooking lessons and the whole ball of wax. For this area, it was really, really good what we provided for the community. It wasn't just a handout, it was hands-on. So they had the skills. But in the hospital setting, I did some cardiac rehab education, and but I don't think there was ever like 30 visits, kind of thing.
Right. Well, no, it's all together between the exercise and the every aspect of the rehabilitation is supposed to be 30 sessions. And
Yeah.
that's primarily with the exercise component. And
Mm-mm.
some I know one of our local systems does a much better job. I never could get a registered dietitian at mine. We had nobody. And then I would hear the one in Richmond always had a registered dietitian. I was like, well, of course I don't have it. I'm in Portsmouth, which is terrible town.
Well, I can tell you, I mean,
So
I
I was
live
in
in,
a really urban, poor area, and we did not have a registered dietitian. I mean, I struggled just to get equipment into my rehab. So
I live truly in Hooterville. I mean, this is a very, very small community. We're very blessed to have a hospital here.
right,
A lot of them have closed, but
right,
when I left that position, I can tell you, because I did nutrition education across the board on everything, and I would do it free 1 day a week. Was totally committed to that, and I think I was the only one like in 100-mile radius that did it for free, and I'd be booked out for 3, 4, 5 months.
Oh, absolutely. I think people are so wanting to be able to have that time, but it takes a lot. I really had to push my type 1 diabetic patients who were getting already early cardiac issues and diabetic retinopathies, and I mean in their 30s, and
Yeah.
having to get them to really understand that they did need to have some sort of control over their diet and their blood pressure and so forth. So yeah. All right, let's continue with Mr. Baker's words of wisdom.
Can in good conscience just write prescriptions and hand a handful of pills to somebody. They can't do it because they're obligated, if they have a good conscience, to tell people to start with their diet.
Yeah.
Now I know many of you out there will agree.
And we do. I think that the misnomer is to, I think that even when I don't think there's been even somebody like myself who's in the profession, I've had these conversations also with my doctor.
Yeah.
Because they want to make sure that I get B vitamins and stuff when I really was, fully plant-based, So, I mean, we were looking at different stuff at the time,
Yeah. And I agree with him. It's about diet. But what diet are you recommending, or what diet are you doing? If you're in need of medication, like a statin or a blood pressure medication, then there's obviously cardiac issues. Or potential serious cardiac issues.
Right.
So you need to then focus on the type of diet that's appropriate for that disease.
Right, which generally they recommend a Mediterranean style diet.
Yeah, American Heart Association, you can find all kinds of things on their website.
And he tried it for a week, not even that. He supposedly did a little bit of the Mediterranean style diet, and I guess he started to lose some of his audience, and so he went back onto the carnivore. I don't know. One time he ate blueberries. And so, there is obviously a connection between red meat and low density lipoproteins. Do you want to explain that at all? And
cardiovascular. The LDLs?
Yeah, and the cardiovascular disease real fast.
It all goes back with red meat is the amount of, is the cut and the amount of saturated fat. Let's just take ground beef. If you get like a 75% lean, ground beef, that 25% of that is fat. So for like a 4-ounce serving, which is small, of that ground beef, it's like at least 25 grams of fat, and much of which there's a higher of saturated fats. But when you go to the 96% lean, it's 4% fat, it's about 4 grams of fat per serving for a 4-ounce serving. And it's, just when you cook it, it's don't have a big puddle of grease in your pan when you cook the extra meats.
And that's something I find interesting. I don't know if Tim talks about in this video, but in the past, he has alluded to the more marbled the meat is, the better that actually is for your health and more aligned with what's known as this proper human diet, which is the
No,
carnivore diet.
no. That's, and I'm not saying if it's not, if it's marbled, oh, it's tasty. Yes, it's juicy, it's tender, all that stuff. But that what you're seeing, that marbling, is saturated fat. So, and that's what we're trying to avoid in your diet.
Right. And is there really this huge difference between whether it's organic, grass-fed, meats over like just the same say it was the same cut? Does your body notice any difference if it was organic, grass-fed, or if it was farm raised, like on a massive agri farm?
I don't think your body knows a difference. I've heard people say that there's a taste difference, that they, they're not trying to eat organic. They just think the grass-fed meat tastes better than, cows that have been fed out on grain too. But, I'd love to eat organic, but, I can barely afford to get groceries in the door. So, I'm just going to eat what I can get.
Part of what they try to say is that if you're getting all this like higher end and, animals that this and that, you're really like eating like your ancestors. You're going to be getting all these miraculous benefits.
I don't know. I mean, I would say it was not so far as the taste or what your body would recognize. I think it would be the same, be it organic, grass fed, or, whatever, or grain fed. I don't think the body would know it.
Right.
Difference.
And I think that's one of these things that people try to sell with these types of things. It's like, oh, but if you buy this one, it's so much better and it's going to do so much better. And half the time your body doesn't notice the difference between that salt, this salt. It just sees salt. Doesn't know if it's been grass-fed organic or raised in a factory farm. Doesn't notice the difference. The only thing that's noticing the difference is you and the taste. And that's it. It's a preference. Yeah. It's nothing that's actually going to enhance your body per se. No, it doesn't say that, and I think there's a lot of misnomers. And I think that people love to sell this on these types of diets here. This guy on a carnivore diet, do they tell you to have lots of fat? It will be the primary source of energy. I don't think the fat is really a primary source of energy.
No, you're the primary source of energy for your body and your brain is carbohydrates.
Right. Exactly. That's what I think is so misunderstood. And they're so lacking in things like potassium. They're going to put themselves into a cardiac arrhythmia. Mm-hmm. I think that's, those fats, that's what they're saying is that, all of these reductions of fat, this is what's causing dementias. This is what's causing, and they assume that everybody, most medical people that I know eat very healthfully compared to, I know some nurses who eat bloody awful. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. But I think for most medical professionals, at least, try to follow, because we do learn something about how food affects the body, and try not to eat too many of these sort of fats and big, juicy steaks and stuff. I think if people do, it's very limited. It's not something like Mr. Baker is having them 3 times a day. All right, keep going. Yeah, he eats it all day long. Bacon, everything, girl.
That eating ho-hos, ding dongs, drinking Coca-Cola products, cursing, just swallowing tablespoon after tablespoon of sugar in your body every day, whether it be bread, potatoes, rice, pasta, Coca-Colas, ding dongs. It's all the same. You know that you're getting fatter, shorter, dumber, foggier, sicker. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to take 20, 30, 40 years off your life? Don't you?
Does he think that's the diet that we promote at the hospitals?
No, I mean, I agree with him. All that King Dongs, ho-hos.
Oh, yeah, terrible. I've never eaten that stuff.
Buckets of sugar and simple carbohydrates. And, no, I don't condone that or recommend that. So, but there are complex carbohydrates that's good for your body, and, fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's a natural you pull it out of the ground and eat it. So what's the problem with that?
Right. I think you're supposed to be, you need that fiber, Tim, to be able to move your bowels properly, sir.
And it, also for cholesterol control, the fiber.
Absolutely. I'm sure his high density lipoproteins, his HDL, is probably in the toilet.
Oh, it's probably 5.
He never eats fruit. He doesn't drink water. I never seen him eat a vegetable. He supposedly used to eat salads, like the packet salads.
Well, he probably one of those that, if you have a salad, but if you dump, a cup of salad dressing on it, it's, a ranch. It's not doing you any good.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. And they said those salad things, they come with a packet that's huge. It's enormous.
Well, I would like to know, just like how many grams of protein a day is he eating? Because, your body only needs so much, and then you're going to overload your kidneys with all this extra protein. So, and it depends on, like these big bodybuilders and stuff. Yeah. If you're Chris Bumstead, yeah, you need some high protein, but right. I'm sure that.
Well, you didn't hear that Tim is an Olympic athlete? He is over at the shirtless, walking up the bridge with no sunscreen on in Florida. You didn't know that? Because he's impervious to the rays because he's on the carnivore diet. You didn't know he's over at the LA Fitness and running into Hulk Hogan? God. Training partners, girl.
Oh my gosh, I cannot. But that's with a balanced diet, you don't, if you're eating all the, you have issues with your livers and your kidneys, and you increase cholesterol and in lipids, and
he's already drinking like 10 cups of caffeinated coffee a day on those kidneys.
And he's wringing them out. Because that's a diuretic. Caffeine is a diuretic.
Oh my gosh.
So, and he's not drinking water to replace anything.
No, when he did, it was like one of these IV like replacement type things with a bunch of salt and potassium in it, which he needs the potassium probably because the protein gives you no potassium. Yeah. I read some recent studies about the carnivore diet, like from 2025, and about how it lacks so many nutrients that your body needs, particularly potassium.
Mm-hmm. I was just curious, was he taking a multivitamin?
I don't think so, because he's sworn off everything. He gets everything from the diet. All right, we're going back to Tim. I know it's astounding, isn't it? And he wants thousands of people to watch this and learn from him.
Don't you want to live? Don't you want to be healthy? Don't you want to be like a lion? Look at those animals that eat meat. Look at their physiques. That's what eating meat will do to you. Folks, we just have to wake up, get off of what you think you know, forget what you think you know, check your ego at the door, we used to say when we were going to sales seminars. Don't come in here listening to the seminar that you might get one good thing out of, like you know it all. That's the worst person that goes and watches something and they're going to sit there from the very, very beginning. Then they're just shaking their head. No, I know everything. I'm the critic here. I'll tell you how it's going to be. One of those kind of people. Don't be that kind of person. When you walk in the door, when you put it on Amazon, you hit play, check your ego. Say, I'm here to learn something. What else is there? I want to know what I don't know.
Do you not know anything about protein cheekbones that you think this film could fill you in on?
No. And I'll say, I don't know everything, but I know a little about this. And I suggest if he wants to learn that he apply to, a college and, either get his bachelor's in nursing or bachelor's in dietetics and then go to a Katie approved internship and set for his boards. And then I'll talk to him. And then we can have a discussion.
You don't think that his health is wealth and, that you need to check your ego at the door, cheekbones. How dare you not be open to this?
You know,
So
and
what does the body need to be healthy? I mean, it needs a lot, to be honest. But what are the major macronutrients that the body needs? Let's start on macro rather than micro.
you need your carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates.
Okay, and what
You
does
need
that
your
do for the body? Just because
well,
we're going to break it down because Tim doesn't know.
well, your complex
And he
carbohydrates
watches, by the way, so we're going to teach him today.
okay. Well, I mean, your complex carbohydrates are usually your like high fiber foods.
Okay.
That's because it takes the body more to digest them. And then you have the fiber that's good for the GI health.
And what would be something like that you would recommend? Is that something like a sweet potato? What would you say would be something good like that?
Yeah, like a sweet potato. Oh gosh. Usually like a lot of, if you get the appropriate grain product,
okay,
it can have a lot
like
of fiber in it.
Like a farro grain.
Yes.
I like a farro.
And even though a lot of vegetables are lower in carbohydrates, they're higher in fiber. You're like broccoli. But your fruits and vegetables, they've all got fiber in it, like an apple. It's got fiber in it. Sure, it has sugar, but it's an apple. It has, vitamins and fiber and a simple carbohydrate.
And your body processes fructose differently, correct? Than it would say a simple sugar from a candy bar.
A sugar is a sugar.
Okay, so fructose is the same.
Yeah, I mean, sugar. But do you want to eat sugar from a candy bar that's high in fat and probably chemicals and has no nutritional value other than it's high in simple carbohydrates, or an apple that's much probably low? I mean, it is much lower in sugar, but you're also getting the fiber and the vitamins with it. So
the dental health that comes along with actually eating the apple and the skin that people don't think about.
Yes.
That you need for your mouth. Believe it or
not. And it's probably wouldn't cause near the dental caries an apple would that chomping on a candy bar would.
And I love having sliced apple as a side on a lunch or a meal, just a sliced apples. That's one of my favorite little go-to carbs often on a dinner plate even.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people look, all bread's not created equal and all potatoes are not created equal. I do like sweet potatoes, but a plain baked potato is not, the devil's tool.
It is not. I like to have russet potatoes cut in half and just baked with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of tiny bit of salt and pepper on the top, and just use those instead of bread as a base. Use those as like a base.
Yeah, I mean, it's a resistant
with the skin, and because the skin has so much goodness in it.
Absolutely, and it's a resistant. Well, the potato's a resistant starch. It doesn't metabolize like a piece of Wonder Bread, But a lot of people, white rice is so bad. Look at the Asian cultures. They're all based around white rice. They eat white rice with every meal, but they're also high plant-based eating. So it's not the white rice that's packing on the pounds, unless you're Chantal and you're eating 40 cups of it at a meal. It's okay. Rice. Because, I like brown rice. I eat white rice. But a potato's, not, that's right.
I love a parsnip.
You're okay. I'm not a turnip person. I can't do
really?
turnips.
I like turnips too. I like all that stuff. I grew up in England though, so I like all those vegetables.
I like collard greens, but just the turnip itself.
Too. I'll eat those too, as long as they're not cooking pork. Don't want any pork pork hunger, whatever they call that. Pork, whatever. Okay, so we've got our carbohydrates, and then obviously our proteins, and they're going to be more of our muscle builders, correct? That's what builds our muscles, but that's not what gives us the energy to actually fuel the muscle.
Correct.
You need
It's
the
the carbohydrates.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's trying to work out at the moment. And so I'm trying to think, because you don't ever see guys who power lift, they are not just eating meat. They're going to be having rice with it and broccoli with a piece of chicken.
Yeah.
That's what these body power lifters, that's what I always saw them eat. Chicken, broccoli, rice.
Yeah.
It's like all the time.
Well, you know, and I've got into last several years watching Chris Bumstead, Mr. Olympia. I don't know if you know who he's Canadian, but and watching him go through his prep, getting ready for competition. That's another thing. I mean, you know, he all but cuts out, you know, pork scratches. Anyway, you know, to watch his diet evolve as closer he gets, it's fascinating. But you know, that's not long term kind of thing. And you know, like I've said, if you want to try, like if you want to do the carnivore diet because you can lose some weight and you want to get snatched for that, you know, class reunion, you know, go for it. It's a short term thing, but you know, long term, no. But you know, we have to have some fats too in our diet. You know, our cells need lipids. You know, it has a function in the body, but not as much as carbohydrates and not as much as protein. You know,
and vegetables even have a certain amount of protein. It's a different type of protein, obviously, and obviously it doesn't have the vitamin B12, which is what we need to get really from these animal sources. But isn't it because they eat that source and then we get it? Because that's one of the things that they think is that if an animal, this is part of the carnivore, I don't know if he mentions it here, is that I shouldn't go on this, but about the fact that because an animal eats the vegetables, somehow then we get the vegetable the animal ate. I don't think it works that way, though.
No, I don't. I mean, the body of the animal absorbed what nutrients it needed for life, but you know, it's not.
And a lot, you know, so I guess if they think if the cow ate the grass, then we're getting whatever cud from the cow because the cow ate the cud. And I just don't think this doesn't work like that.
It just pulls the needed nutrients out like you do, like I do.
Right. That's why cows poop. All that manure.
Yeah,
and that's why the manure is good for growing vegetables.
Yeah. And you know, you know, I'm sure you know with your vegetarian, vegan, you know, there's complete proteins and incomplete proteins, and we need complete proteins. And if you eat beans and rice within 24 hours of each other, they will combine to make a complete protein. You don't have to eat them together. As long as you eat them within 24 hours, they combine to make a complete protein.
Which is why it's so popular in places like Latin America to eat beans and rice, especially if their people don't have a lot of money to buy meat.
Yeah. And quinoa is another good option.
Yes, I do love some quinoa too.
Yeah. So, you know, I just put it in that stacking order of, and I have, for the 10 people who weren't with us during our Chantal reviews, but I've eaten basically a low-fat diet. I'd lost a lot of weight eating a low-fat diet. I have such a history of heart disease in my family. You know, they're popping clogs at 55. So I was terrified growing up. And so I, for 30 plus years, that's how I've mainly eaten. I'm not saying every meal every day, but that's pretty well how I try to stick to my diet is, you know, a heart healthy, lower fat diet.
Right. And I'm probably not dissimilar because I also had family with a history of cardiac disease in my family and colon cancers. And so I know that there is an increased risk of colon cancer with a carnivore diet. But we need our fats. And obviously, yes, we can get fats, but we can also get fats from other foods like avocados. So not all fats have to be from an animal protein.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and then oils like olives obviously have fats too, correct?
Yes.
And I'm sure we know that they are different. And then there's what else? So we got our fats, our proteins, our carbohydrates, and then there's one other thing, I believe, isn't there? Or is that it? Is that the three? That's it. Okay. And then it would be like our minerals and whatever the other, things that we need as far as the more micronutrients, correct? But those are the main macronutrients that we need to consume. And we're not carnivores.
No, I just, I had a patient one time tell me, he said, I don't understand. He said, I'm eating all this meat, but like I'm not getting any big, my muscles aren't getting any bigger. And I said, well, what kind of like weight program are you doing? He goes, oh, no, I'm not working out. And I said, he thought that if he just ate an enormous amount of protein, he'd get all bulked up. And I was like, no, that's not how that works. You're just blowing your kidneys out. So we had to talk about that. But it just was very eye-opening that he just thought if I ate a lot of protein, I'll end up looking like Bumstead. No, that's not how that works.
I wonder where he got that.
He was precious, but I was like, no, that's not how that works.
So
Dr.
Classy says Tim should be on the DASH diet, which is similar to Mediterranean diet, but low in salt and low fat.
Correct.
Right. He probably should, but he doesn't want to do that. I guess he wants to rage bait us all instead, and make sure that we are upset with his diet. Okay, Tim, let's keep going.
That's the kind of person I am. I want to know about RVs, even though I've been around them, that I don't know. And that's ever learning. That's ever improving. I want to know about a lot of things I don't know jack about. Anybody that knows me knows that. I'm a, what do they say? You're a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. I would rather be a little more experienced, though, in many different things than really just have one expertise. And that's the problem. People got blinders on. They think they know one thing. They got a PhD, they got a master's degree, and they are so egotistical that they have something that you don't, that maybe only a few people have, and therefore that qualifies them to know everything about everything.
We're going to go down into the Spain under Franco if we're not careful. If anybody studied history, it was not a good period of time in Spain to be under Franco.
Well, I think, I get, like I said a while ago, I don't know everything. And if somebody asks me something and I don't know, or it's been a hot minute because, in the healthcare, it's vast. So I'll say, well, let me read up on it, and I'll read somebody that's pro, somebody that's con, and, peer refereed articles and National Institute of Health, and just get a whole picture. And then I can come back and give you, but I don't, think because I have a RD that I know it all. I don't know it all.
Right. But this is probably a silent jab at me too.
Well, and I think he's got some type of Napoleon complex against anybody with an education. Right. And I'm not saying, look, my dad was not college educated, and he built missiles for the Air Force, saved them, came up with a little instrument that saved them millions of dollars. Wow. And he had a high school education. Right. So,
right. My mother was the first computer repair person in female in Virginia in the 1970s. And she only had a high school education because she had me at a young age.
Yeah. So we're not saying that anybody that doesn't have but in our fields, you can't get out of high school and then oh, I want to be a nurse. I'm coming to work on the floor as a nurse. And I can't say,
Right.
I'm going to be a dietitian out of high school. I'm going to walk on the floor. You have to have the education to do those
Right. And
professions.
it's not about an ego, it's about the fact that there are ethics and there are protocols that we follow as healthcare professionals in order to ensure the safety of the individuals who we deliver care to.
Absolutely.
So Tim doesn't have the background to think I could potentially cause harm to people that get this message. I could increase their LDL. I could give them higher risk of heart attacks. I could get them pooping like a rabbit.
Kidney failure, liver
Dehydrated.
failure. Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
be screwing up their kidneys, you
Yeah.
know. He has no ethical code of practice in order to think to himself that wouldn't be a good piece of advice to give to a person.
Yeah.
And it's not about ego. You don't want people who are unlicensed providing you with care.
Mm-mm. No.
That's where these people get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And like with me saying, like, I like the DASH diet, the American Heart Association diet. But if you're diabetic, obviously that's not one you can follow to the T. You have to have it detailed to your diabetes. So, but I'm just, as somebody that's generally healthy and doesn't have any of those things, I just think that that's a good diet to follow.
Right. Right. And I mean, I have been somebody that maybe my, not having ate meat through my lifetime is not for everybody. But I know for me as a personal choice, it's worked for me. And I have been able to reach 56 years old. I just ran 5 miles on the sand today. And I am somebody who, still works a lot. And I don't take any medications. And I certainly am not influenced by Big Pharma to take medications, or don't know what the secret is to managing my blood pressure or my weight. I understand that by managing my weight, by managing my blood pressure, by getting checkups on my lab work, by looking at things like my overall cholesterol, my hemoglobin A1C, whatever it takes as I have aged, not to reach 60 some years old and then start thinking about my health. You have to start to think about your health from a much earlier age. And I started to think a lot about mine probably when I started to be a runner. And that career for me has started when I was a child, 12 years old. And so obviously I've always had, and part of the reason why I went into healthcare, and this is like for Dr. Classy Badassy, and I think for any of us who do it and dedicate and spend a lot of time away from our friends, our families, studying and completing this, not just watching a video and then having this attitude.
Yeah.
And then saying that people that actually have spent so much time ensuring that we are delivering a good level of care for people. And the amount of time and dedication, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you had 1,200 hours of clinical. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's up there with like.
We had to, it wasn't just clinical hours. I mean, I also had coursework to do as well as that. So, I mean,
right. Absolutely. There's everything on top of it. Absolutely. It's not just the hours that you spend. It's what you have to do around those hours too. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
And
with 3 kids.
Because you care about people and you want to deliver good outcomes. And that's why I don't understand why this person is so anti-education.
Well, I guess because he doesn't have it. I mean, but like I said, I'm not saying if you don't have a collegiate education that you don't know anything. Absolutely, you do. But you're not on the internet, pushing this type of thing, if somebody came up and said, hey, Tim, I did, like you said, I followed that carnivore diet and I had a massive stroke and a quadruple bypass. He'd go, why are you listening to me? I'm not a doctor. I don't know nothing. So, you know, just, you can't, you know, you can't make a square peg fitting a round hole. Everybody is different.
Like the picture of health here, you know, and I think, and Dr. Classy Badass, I want to bring up, because this is an excellent point, is I take medications for my crappy thyroid. And there are a lot of people who do have to take thyroid medications for crappy thyroids. Please know there is no shame in taking medications. Thank you. There is no shame often in taking medications.
And look, there's people out there with high blood pressure, or even high cholesterol, and they're runners. They eat healthy. I mean, it's just something biological. And then there's some, you know, antipsychotic medication that will drive those triglycerides into outer space. And there's nothing they can do about it. You know, they have to have their medication.
Absolutely. So, and thank you for that, because I know Dr. Classy Badass is come up from a nursing background, and they have said the RD and RN education are the most challenging undergraduate degrees, and they really are. I don't think
I agree.
They are very tough. They will break you. You're supposed to amass huge amounts of knowledge in a very short amount of time. Over, you know, and we're talking adults, children, because I'm sure you also touched a little bit of pediatric, I'm sure, at the time too.
I try to avoid the pediatric.
I actually love pediatrics now that I work in pediatrics. I love my little patient, but that's because she's just precious. That's because I get to play with babies all day too. So
I do you.
I get to play with a little girl all day. I have a 2-year-old. She just became 2. So I've had her since she was a baby. Yeah. So we get to potty training, all sorts of stuff at the moment. So. Woo. Yeah, I know. Isn't it fun? So, all right, let's get back to Tim, because he's just so joyful. Doesn't he just look like the picture of health here?
And when they walk out that door, their common sense is like not even existent. I know people like that. They have all these degrees and got zero common sense. Let me tell you, I would rather be a critical thinker, an open-minded person. I would like to try anything there is that doesn't cost a ton of money, that I can do, that helps me. Because guess what? This is going to be true for you too. Here's a true statement out of my rant this morning.
Oh.
There isn't anything you own more than me. There isn't anything you might own. There isn't anything you've got that you won't give up in a heartbeat if you find yourself confined to a chair or horizontal on a bed and you can't get out and just walk down the damn road. You will give it all away for health. So why does it have to get to that point? Why do you have to be so disease-ridden that, or take 40 years off your life? I'd rather live under a bridge as a broke dick and be alive and healthy than to live only 40 or 50 years like some people die 60 years old.
What do you think about this message of
I agree with him, but you know, I don't think this is the road to that. But I agree with him.
Right.
You know,
and I do agree with him about certain dietary choices, because I tell my patients all the time when I worked in cardiac rehab that fast food places are the devil.
Absolutely.
I was like, do not tell me that you just went to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
I do not want to hear that you just had some of that salt brine chicken. And not tell people how many times Chick-fil-A is not a healthy option. They brine that chicken in salt. Why do you think that chicken tastes so good?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
And so I think that that's a misnomer. I don't understand where Tim is assuming that, you know, and I understand. I mean, I have seen where patients don't want to hear the lifestyle stuff. They don't want to exercise. They don't want to change what how they eat. Isn't that one of the challenges that we face?
Yeah. And, you know, when we know one person that's exactly like that, you know, in your past life, in your past girl world life,
Well,
Yeah,
we come
I
back
mean,
in on occasion. Chantel's going to be hurting with the price of food in Canada.
yeah,
That
Lord. But
might be the one thing that slims her.
yeah, you
She'll be
keep
on the poor
on.
man insure.
She's done hitting up every fast food place. Yeah. So,
Jeanette makes a good point. The skyrocketing prices of fast food places are going to save a lot of people's health, I think.
I
It's
agree.
just
I
not
agree.
affordable anymore, and it's not fast either. Their employees are quiet quitting.
I agree. Yeah.
I
And you
have
know what?
no issue with it. Do you? That people aren't wanting to buy fast food anymore?
No, I don't. And you know, and there are healthier options at fast food places if it's a necessary evil.
Right. I mean, I get a salad from Panera that has
I get
grains and avocado in it, though. They do like a
Yeah.
Mediterranean grains or something.
I get the baked potato at Wendy's. It
Oh,
comes
yeah.
with reduced fat sour cream and a side salad with a fat-free dressing. And
Yeah,
you
that
know,
used to be my go-to when I was a vegetarian visiting here in the States. It would be that baked potato at Wendy's.
yeah,
I used to do
yeah.
it with the, obviously, I was younger, so I would do the broccoli with the cheese sauce. Not that
Yeah.
that was great.
Well, that's still better than a Big Mac. So
Yeah. I can't say that I didn't have that, but I
yeah.
probably felt like I was still making a better choice.
Yeah,
It wasn't bad,
it was
actually.
a better choice than a double bacon nader cheesy kind of thing. So yeah, it is a better choice. But
Yeah.
a McDonald's. I don't do
See, the problem
McDonald's.
is that Tim is supposedly somebody who loves a Burger King. So half of what he's talking about is himself.
Yeah, and here's an added aspect to this. Say I'm watching him, I'm going, great. I'm going to do this carnivore diet, and the next day go buy me 10 tons of meat and I eat it. I've had several patients that had alpha gal and had no idea they had it until they went into anaphylactic
what's
shock.
that?
That's the from the tick bites where you can't eat meat. And some people even cannot have any dairy. I had a patient that went into anaphylactic shock. This was back when McDonald's was frying their fries in beef tallow. He was a teenager and ate French fries at McDonald's and went into anaphylactic shock.
Oh my God.
Because everybody's threshold is different. So
and this is from a deer tick bite?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so, and you may not know you have it, because your threshold may be higher and you've eaten some meat and it doesn't bother you. But then you go to this and cram, a whole side of beef down your pie hole.
Right.
And what if you're alone? What if you go into anaphylactic shock alone? It's just that, that's a small chance of that happening, but I have seen it happen.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. And people do go out into definitely here in the United States and will get exposure, whether they're hiking or hunting or doing whatever, to getting potentially ticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had one patient, now it's supposed to be mammals, but she couldn't eat fish or chicken.
Oh, wow.
No dairy, no meat, no fish, no chicken, it was totally vegan.
I wouldn't struggle with that, but maybe that's a good thing for me if I ever get bit by a tick.
You'll be cool.
out in the wilds with Junebug. All right, keep going, Tim.
And, had a lot of money and then to check out of here.
Suck.
That's sad. I don't care about money. I don't care about stuff. I care about being a vibrant human being, expressing myself, living the life to the fullest, looking at things that are created by God, enjoying it, scenery, travel, stuff, and being able to do it, lift it, carry it, enjoy it, ride it. And it takes help.
This is a guy who, when he traveled out west, didn't stop at one national park or did anything. Just stopped at like Love's gas stations and Buc-ee's for coffee.
Okay. Well, that's living life to the fullest. Yeah.
Health is wealth. Didn't you know that?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't disagree with what he's saying. I just disagree with his solution to it.
Right. I think, and that is also my bone of contention, I think, with Tim too. I think all of us understand that if you have good health, that at the end of the day, that is going to be so much more beneficial for you as an individual than just money alone, because you can have money and have poor health. But I can let you know, Tim, if you find yourself living under a bridge somewhere homeless, you're not going to have good health over a very long time.
No.
Most of my homeless patients were probably some of the ones who had some of the worst health, especially on their feet.
Yeah.
So you're going to be definitely wanting all those Nike trainers that you have, Tim.
It takes mobility. It takes thinking. You got to have everything. Your body is everything. Listen to this guy. He's lost his mind. He turned carnivore and he went nuts. I sure did. I sure did. And I can kick myself for waiting 66 years to discover the simplest way to be in health, to be in shape, to think clearly. It's really amazing. And did it take me 6 months or a year? Like some of these diet fads and all that, try to get you to string you along. It's all about stringing you along, you know. Keep that money going. That's a better profit than something that might work in a week. Once you just purge out all that poison you've been eating all your life and you stop listening to all the naysayers out there that talk about gout, cholesterol, your blood work, you're going to die, you're going to get Crohn's disease, or meat's going to rot in your intestine.
How long does meat take to digest through the intestine, cheekbones?
It would vary. You know,
So
like
let's
I
say
said,
red meat, because that's Tim's favorite.
yeah. I mean, it does. That's the, you know, the reason why it has the colon cancer risk. I mean, it just doesn't, I mean, it has no water, no fiber in it. So the motility is very slow.
Right. It just sits there, kind of in the diverticuli of your colon.
Yes, absolutely. And I would be scared of like an impacted bowel, you know, honestly, if it's not moving very fast, you know.
Right. Which is, he's describing something that doesn't sound like it's moved very quickly. And I wonder too, when he's talking about his sort of swollen abdominal area, is he holding stool?
Yeah. And, you know, the diverticulitis, you know, that
and I want to say that he's had some issues with that in the past. Does anybody remember in the chat, if you're an OG on Tim, I want to say that he did say that he may have had some type of colon, some type of gastric issue like that previously. Let's keep ranting, Tim. We're almost done, cheekbones.
All baloney. All baloney. Everything is going great. Everything feels great. And no longer do I think every other hour, man, it's time to go to a choke and puke. What do I got in that cupboard? Where's them chips at? Where's them cookies? You got any of them cookies left? Give me some of that chocolate milk. Give me some kind of carbohydrate. I'm hooked. I'm an addict. Where's them Fritos? Got any more of that cake left? Let's bake a cake. Make some oatmeal raisins.
I don't eat like this. Do you?
I absolutely do not. I very rarely eat sweets. If I have a sweet tooth, an apple or a non-fat yogurt, and I'm good. And I rarely eat chips. I just never have been a chip eater.
Right. I have them occasionally, but I like those hip peas. Those are my ones that I'm a bit crazy for. White cheddar hip peas.
But you know, any food, be it sugar, salt, any of that, you know, you can train yourself out of those things. And it's hard. It's like if you've got look, my husband is addicted to sweets. Right. And I have to ride her. And I have to come in here in this study and do a drawer check because he'll hide Oreos. So, but I'm not. So I don't think about it. So I try to offer him, better choices for his sweets than he hides his bootleg stuff in here, which reminds me, I probably need to do a check after the stream. But when you get in salt, if you get off of it or back it off, and then you try to eat as much as you did before, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so salty. I can't handle that. you will adjust. So, and maybe that's why I don't crave sugar, because I don't really eat it. I never really have.
Right.
And salt. Now as you know, I have a twin sister, and the amount of salt that she eats, I would like stroke out if I ate, but her blood pressure is always normal.
Right.
She has no health problems. She's tall, she's thin, she's active, she's a respiratory therapist.
Right.
So it's just, I think with different people, it could be different things.
Right.
But, if you just kind of back off that stuff, you can, you learn that your body will adjust and you won't be craving it like you do.
Right. And it really is about your taste buds having created, cravings for these foods, because food scientists are very smart at creating flavors that we are going to become very addicted to. And sugar and salt is very addictive, seemingly, for our taste buds. Like they can't get enough of them. And so unfortunately, both of those substances don't do us any good.
No,
great quantities. A little bit,
Yeah, and I'm not saying you can never have a piece of cake. You absolutely can. I'm not saying I have.
You just don't want a whole cake alone in the house.
I just don't. For Father's Day, I did. His favorite pie is key lime pie. Absolutely favorite. We had a big family cookout for him. I made a key lime pie. Everybody ate it. I did not eat any. Like I said, I'm just not. I don't mind baking them. I just don't like eating them.
Right.
You can occasionally have that stuff, but
right.
That's what I have found is people that just eat sweets, they get so used to them, then it's like, okay, well, I have to eat more to satisfy. And
I can't say that I am not someone who likes a sweet thing, because I do, but I try to do things that I tend to have fruit in the house. So if I want something sweet, I'll do fruit. Or if I need to have something that's chocolatey, because I do like chocolate, I have these like Kroger's, and they're actually vegan, but they're just chocolate graham crackers. It's not a lot of sugar.
Yeah. Graham crackers is a great choice.
Yeah. And so I just do the chocolate flavored one because it gives me that little chocolate taste that I like. And I don't tend to have a lot. So, okay. Let's get back to Tim, because he's just spitting out them facts.
Some cookies. Yeah, I've ate my share. I have ate plenty. I see it, I eat it. No more. No more will to do it. No more desire to do it. You know what? It's like, if you see some bug crap on the ground, you don't want to put that in your mouth, do you? Well, that's the way I look at stuff now. That's got sugar in it, especially tons of it. I don't want it. I know what it'll do to me. I know how, it'll make me look. I know how to make me feel. It's common sense. But when you're hooked on it and you've been doing it all your life and you don't notice the difference, and you're just walking around getting bigger and bigger every year, you look at photos, you say, man, I was about 30 pounds lighter 5 years ago. Look at this now. Oh my gosh. Folks, join me. Spread the word. But here's what you got to do. There's a right way and a wrong way to do anything. Now, I failed. I failed quickly because of the addiction to other food groups. And
addiction to other food groups. I don't think I like that vocabulary.
No. I honestly thought, and he may say it, I thought he was going to say, go to your physician, get your blood work, sit down and talk with them before you decide. That's what I thought was, and I was going to say, oh, well, hey, I'll have to.
Oh no, he's all angry at his doctors now. He wants people to follow him. He knows better. Because isn't that kind of what you're picking up on this? That's kind of what I'm picking up.
You and I are both healthcare professionals, and every time we do these, we always say, go to your doctor, have blood work, you talk to them, before you start anything, because you may have high blood pressure and not know it. You may have chronic kidney disease, stage 3, and not know it. You may have diabetes and not know it. Yeah, so
Right.
you know,
And it's very negligent because Tim is obviously, and not to be insulting to any of us, probably has an older audience. So probably doesn't need to be having this dietary advice.
no, absolutely not. And then there's, I don't think so much with the carnivore, but if you're on a statin, you don't need to eat grapefruit. There's some food medicine interactions.
Right.
So if you're saying, oh, you need to do this diet, it could potentially cause problems if you're not getting that checked out with your doctor or pharmacist about food and medicine interactions. So,
right.
There's a lot.
Don't just stop taking a medication without discussing it with your doctor.
Absolutely.
But Tim, that's what he's claiming that he's done. I don't think I think he looks worse than ever. All right. We're about to run out of this time on this one stream, and it's actually done pretty well for us today. All right. Keep going, Tim.
Happen to you. Others, they begin and they don't cheat, they do it. But if you get back up on the horse like I did, or you watch something inspirational like this movie Animal, which I think is a godsend, you will succeed. So just get back up on the horse, because it only takes a few weeks to a few days to start feeling good, a few weeks to start looking good, better.
I'm gonna say he doesn't look that good. I don't think Brad Pitt's much younger than he is, because and Tim's 66. Brad Pitt's looking way hotter.
Yeah.
I know it's Brad Pitt money, but
I'd look like Heidi Klum if I had Brad Pitt's money.
Right. I know we'd all be looking so different with these types of folks' money. But I mean, there are men that I know. I mean, obviously they're actors and they have personal trainers and dietitians and all. But when you do obviously have the money and you have access to all of that, you can look pretty good. I don't think following Tim down the road to rabbit pooping is probably the road to health.
No.
All right, we're going to finish him up because I think we're running out of time on this one stream, so we can finish him out and let you finish up with just some words of wisdom. And I'm just so glad that you joined us today.
So, do you want it? People say they want to be rich. They want a new home. They want a new car. They want an RV. They want to go travel. They want. But there's none of that they would want if they were sick. All they want to do is be healthy. Make me feel good again. Get me out of this bed. Put that box of Kleenex away. What's wrong with me? I'm having to take these hard prescriptions, these antibiotics. I'm in the hospital. Get me out of here. Let me just go down to the park like everybody else, just running up and down the street. Health, baby. Health is how you crush life. Hey.
Oh, all right. I'm going to stop sharing Tim. Sorry, it's always such a good end. I'm so professional right at the end. Okay, we've got just a couple of minutes left, actually. So why don't you give us some words of wisdom about Tim's carnivore diet and whether you think it's going to be the cure-all to his health, his cardiac issues specifically?
Absolutely not. I just, it's terrifying that he's putting that out there, and if I was up here telling you, yes, you need to eat a carnivore diet, then you need to call me out. It's balance. You have to see your physician and make sure there's no underlying health problems there. But it just doesn't make sense that all you're doing is eating bacon, butter, cream, and meat. Mm-hmm. You need your vegetables. You need the fiber. You need some healthy fats. That's just it. Period. And Absolutely. So if anybody's, when they ask me, and I get asked a lot, like, what's a diet I could do? And I say it's really a lifestyle. The American Heart Association or the DASH diet. But he is right. Your health is the main thing in your life, and you would trade everything to have it when you don't have it. So I will agree with him on that, but this carnivore diet to me, professionally, I don't care for it.
Right. And I don't think, having worked in heart health, I care for it either. So I'm going to bring up, we got 8 minutes. I got 2 studies that I wanted to share real quick. And just what you think of these, because I found a couple of recent studies, because people always are like, well, I need to see studies, talking about, what could be, incorrect with the carnivore diet, because I hear so many things about how it's so good, how can it be bad when it's so good? And so this is one that I found, and I'll link these in the description box later. So one is called Assessing the Nutrient Composition of a Carnivore Diet, and it was a case study model. It's actually down in New Zealand, Catherine. You can appreciate this. And so I want to point out to this point here, if you can you see the study there? Cheekbones?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so really with the abstract part here, let's start here from the results. Do you see where it says the results there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you able to read that out and then kind of give your thoughts on that? Or do you want me to read it? Can I read it?
I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, okay. So it says so this was a study that was released in 2025. So it's assessing the nutrient composition of a carnivore diet, a case study model. So basically the results were the carnivore diet met several what was known as the NRV, which is the nutrient reference values. I'm guessing you're familiar with that term. Threshold for nutrients such as riboflavin, niacin, phosphorus, zinc, vitamin B6, B12, selenium, and vitamin A, and exceeded the sodium threshold, which is important since Tim likes to put extra salt on stuff. Also, however, it fell short in thiamine, magnesium, calcium, and vitamin C, and in iron, folate, iodine, and potassium in some cases. Fiber intake was significantly below recommended levels. Conclusion: the carnivore diet may offer benefits for managing certain chronic conditions, which I think is something we touched on earlier, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And whether the metabolic context from consuming such a diet facilitates a lower requirement of certain nutrients, or whether it poses risks of micronutrient inadequacies, remains to be determined. Tailored nutritional guidance and supplementation strategies are recommended to ensure careful consideration of micronutrient intake to prevent deficiencies. What do you think of that one there?
I was kind of that is low in iron. That's kind of odd to me.
Why do you think that could be? Because you would think it would be the opposite. What do you think could be potentially contributing? Is there something that maybe that we eat in other foods that helps us with the iron absorption of the meat potentially?
It may be the vitamin C.
Okay.
If you don't have that, let me knock the
Yes,
dust off my
and I'm going to say that is correct, that vitamin C is needed for iron absorption.
Yeah, that may be part of it.
And since they're not getting enough vitamin C through citrus fruits, then they are not being able to actually absorb the iron that this protein has. Because when we give iron supplements at patients, we would always have them take a vitamin C supplement to help them absorb the iron.
Yeah.
So you were in the right place. You dusted off correctly. But yeah, so that's probably what's happening. So for all that thinking that you're getting all this, food works together, doesn't it, in tandem? We kind of have to have certain things of one type in order to get another benefit from it, correct?
Correct.
Like you were talking about the rice and beans. If you ate rice and beans within a 24-hour period, you would get a complete protein.
Correct. Yeah.
And so it seems to make logical sense then that you can be getting all these iron, this heme from the meat, but without that vitamin C, which is obviously helping to absorb that iron, then you're not going to get anything from it, really. You're going to be deficient.
Yeah.
So you need to get the vitamin C. You can't just have one thing.
Yeah.
All right, next one here. This is the last one. We're going to share this tab. So this is the other study that I found, and this is probably something that we were just touching on too. This is called the impacts of animal-based diets and cardiovascular disease development, a cellular and physiological overview. This is the stuff that I like to read, Tim. You know, I know you like to watch Netflix documentaries. I read studies on this stuff. So this was 2023. So this is all within the last 5 years. And then the results of this, we'll just do this real fast, obviously, because we're getting close to time. Obviously, cardiovascular disease, as we know, is the leading cause of death in the US. And diet plays a big part of that. And so basically what they tried to say here, it said the aim of this review is to summarize the major cellular and molecular effects of animal food consumption in relation to cardiovascular disease development. Animal-centered diets may, 1, increase cardiovascular. This is what Tim doesn't know about, okay? Cardiovascular toll-like receptors, TLR signaling due to an increased serum endotoxin and oxidized LDL cholesterol. Tim lost at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely lost. Increased cardiovascular lipotoxicity. That's not good. 3, increase. This is definitely up your wheelhouse, cheekbones. Increase renin-angiotensin system components and subsequent angiotensin 2 type 1 receptor signaling. So all your kidney crap.
Yeah.
And 4, increase serum trimethylamine in oxide concentrations. Say that when you've had a couple of drinks. These nutritionally mediated factors independently increase cardiovascular oxidative stress and inflammation and are independently tied to cardiovascular disease development. Public policy efforts should continue to advocate for the consumption of a mostly plant-based diet with the minimization of animal-based foods. That's my last point. What do you think? We got 35 seconds. Finish us out.
Boom. There you go. Read it and weep. That's what you need to do. There you go.
So you think there's two pretty good studies. I want to thank you for your time today, Cheekbones. If we don't catch up, I want to wish you a very happy 4th of July. And just thank you so much for joining us today. What would you like to say to our audience?
Yes. Everybody have a safe holiday. Catherine, stay good there down under.